The IRS is trying to compete with some of the e-filing tax monsters that are already in the industry. Let's put this tear sheet up. You can see a headline from the Washington Post. The IRS tests free e-filing system that could compete with tax prep giants. So they're saying that they've been sort of quietly constructing a software system that would allow Americans for free to file their tax returns digitally. That's according to current and former agency officials with knowledge of this who told the Washington Post. It's going to be a pilot program for just a smaller group of people actually in January when the 2024 filing season begins, according to people who know about it. It was developed actually by the IRS and the U.S. Digital Service, which is kind of the White House's tech consulting firm agency. Ryan, this is really interesting to me because the IRS has cooperated a lot with the e-filing giants. Like it's almost like a public-private partnership. So that they've been sort of in the shadows developing something that will compete with these businesses. I feel like they've been instrumental in propping up is quite interesting. Yeah,
yes, those 87,000 agents are being put to some good use.
Although finally. It was always, what, like 7,000 new agents, like 80,000 new employees, right?
Something, yeah. If that, yeah. So for the background on this, as you know, I've got a book coming out at the end of this year, and I go over the TurboTax fight back from 2019. So this is fresh in my mind. But if you remember, TurboTax and the other kind of free providers were trying to slip into law a provision that would basically ban the IRS from doing this. And they got John Lewis to carry the water for them, because you just can't oppose anything that John Lewis did. Like that was the one rule in Congress. Right. If John Lewis is for it, you have to be for it. And it went through the House unopposed. Every Democrat, every Republican voice voted for it, and I've got some details on how that happened. And it's kind of a fun story, but it was then exposed and it was blocked in the Senate, and so as a result, that allowed the IRS to go forward with this technology. And so one of the compromises that they had made with the TurboTax types was that, okay, we will continue our cooperation with you so that you can prop up this business of helping people file their taxes online, if you also develop a free product for people to use. So you can have your premium thing where you'll get more money back and you'll do your taxes accurately, but for free, you do this one. And they just kept, obviously, foot dragging, slow walking, and have never developed a free product as they've promised the government that they would do. So in the background, IRS was like, this can't be that hard. Right. And also, we have access to all the IRS back end stuff. We can do this. It's absurd, but also telling that we don't have that yet. Like that we're such a privately controlled government that even our tax, our revenue engine, couldn't develop a website to just let people give it money. Like you're getting trillions of dollars from the public, and you couldn't build a website for them to send it to you. But now, finally, they're breaking through that opposition. Hopefully, it actually works, because I think if people can save the money that they're spending on H&R Block or TurboTax filing online, I think, sorry TurboTax, but like that's a good thing.
I hope, though, that this isn't a situation where, in the same sense that, like, the IRS has less funding historically than it has had in the past right now. Like, that's absolutely true. And who ends up getting squeezed when you start arming the IRS with tons and tons more resources? There's, like, actual evidence, and Sagar's talked about this a lot, that pretty much suggests it's going to be a lot of middle-class taxpayers who end up having to deal with these audits, even ones that cost them a lot of money when they haven't really done anything wrong or there's no evidence of wrongdoing. And I hope it's not a similar situation with this, because as somebody who has had both Obamacare, like on the DC exchange, and private insurance in recent years, the private insurance, like, just let's talk about the infrastructure and the websites. They're so much easier to use than the government ones. And we know that the Obamacare websites have had problems going back to, like, the literal inception of the Obamacare websites. And so I hope, again, that what doesn't happen is that people who, want to pay the flat TurboTax fee, get it over with, end up then having an inferior product, and the option is, TurboTax charging like $500 for what used to cost less because they need to make up that base. So I mean, this is what an industry guy is saying. He's with fileyourtaxes.com. He says, "Is there a need for the government to come compete with and change a functioning private sector industry?" Bless you. It seems like they're saying it's where's this one? This is the guy from Intuit. He says a direct to IRS e-file system is wholly redundant and is nothing more than a solution in search of a problem. Right. So this could disrupt what is, as the Post says,
shocked Intuit feels that way.
Right. A $14 billion e-filing industry. And again, a lot of that is because you get the cooperation of the IRS to begin with. And so I'm sort of in agreement and then in disagreement with your take on this, in that I think some of these private filers are actually pretty efficient and relatively easy to use. At the same time, I do think a basic function of the IRS would be having an easy-to-use e-filing program that is free for taxpayers, because we spend our money propping up the IRS.
Yeah.
Like, that's our money is funding you. So it's a little bit of both for me. Bottom line is it's way too complicated to do taxes in the United States, and a lot of that is because of a tax code that has been completely constructed by special interests and lobbyists and does not serve the average American, but serves special interests and serves wealthy Americans.
Yeah, and I guess we'll see. So far, IRS.gov is actually pretty good. I've used it for, like, there's some few basic things that you can do on it, and it actually functions. I was impressed by that. So we'll see. Like, if they can, and it would be nice for the government to be able to demonstrate that it can do things again.
Right.
So we'll see if it can,
Yeah.
because it is up against all of these forces that are in opposition to it being able to do things, like Intuit spokesman Rick Heinemann, who, and credit to the Washington Post, in the very next paragraph they write, Intuit spent $1 million between January and March lobbying both House and Senate lawmakers on issues including tax system integrity and intellectual property protections, according to disclosures. So, yeah.
I wish they'd do that in, like, Pentagon coverage, by the way.
Yes,
That'd be great.
yes. Now, clearly, you found a populist issue when even, like, the Washington Post reporters are, like, throwing shade at the Intuit quote that they're including in their own, and saying, you know what, I'm checking the disclosure filings on Intuit, see what they spent on lobbying. Boom, $1 million. There
you go.
Spent $1 million lobbying for 3 months, and then you giving us a quote that says the solution will unnecessarily cost taxpayers. You just spent $1 million of money that people paid you to develop this software. You gave it to lawmakers and lobbyists in order to prevent them from building a competitor to you.
Yeah.
So don't tell us about waste unnecessarily costing taxpayers money.
And on a high note, I guess we can all agree that both our government and private sector is a mess right now.
Yeah, there you go. So come on, IRS, show us you can do it.
We'll be watching.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.